Alright guys, we're back. We're going to be talking about a property we haven't discussed yet, which is the clear property. Okay, and that's what's going to allow us to add elements below floated elements. So if you float items left and right, and you guys may have come into this issue before, things below it, of course ignoring it, move up. And if you have a footer on your page, that might be an issue. So we'll get to that in a minute. But first I'm going to show you here, I've set up a file with this div here of container, which most of us have a container on most of our websites, I would imagine. Inside of it, there's two boxes, a main content div and a sidebar div. So pretty simple, right? Two boxes inside of one box. And I've given each of them a background color. So here's my container, right? And I've given that a width of 600 pixels and a background of pink. And I picked some new colors here since we've been using blue and red and black a lot. And I have my main content, which is one of my boxes, which I've given a width and a background color as well, and the sidebar, which also has a width. Now I've made sure that these widths here, the 450 and 150, add up to the width of my container here, because I want these two main content and sidebar to line up next to each other. Okay, so that looks good. All right, let the video catch up here. So what you might expect to see is, if I were to go look at this in the browser, is to see two boxes, right? This box, this pink box or purple box on top of this pink box, right? That's what we expect to see. This purple box, or I'm sorry, on top of the red box, inside of a pink box. That's what you would expect to see. But if I go look at this in the browser real quick, I see nothing. It's blank. And you might say, well, maybe you have a typo somewhere, or maybe you linked to the wrong CSS page, or your link is incorrect, which is the case, but I happen to know it's not in this matter. So let's go back and take a look at our code. The reason it's happening is because of something we haven't discussed yet, which is any element that is empty will automatically collapse to 0 pixels. Okay? So the reason we're not seeing anything is because all of these have collapsed to 0 pixels. All of these are empty. Okay? And you might say, well, the container isn't empty, it has two divs inside of it. This is true, but each of these divs is also empty. There's nothing inside those divs. And there's only widths assigned to them, but there's no heights assigned to them, so they don't have any height. There's no padding, right? So there's no padding for you to be able to see. There's only an empty box, okay? And what happens is the container thinks, okay, well, since I'm empty, I'm going to collapse to 0. So let's fix this. You could give one of the boxes a height, so let's give a main content box a height, and there it is. That purple box is the main content box. Let's go back and take a look at the code. So it's the purple box, has a width of 450 pixels inside of the pink box. Okay, that's what you're seeing here. Purple inside of pink. The pink has a 600 pixel width, and that's what we're seeing here. So now the container box thinks, hey, I'm not empty. This div inside of me has a height set to it, so I need to expand in order to be able to accommodate it. All right, so that's what it's seeing here. It's this container now has expanded in height to accommodate the height of the main content. Okay, now there's two ways that a parent will expand its height to accommodate content. Either A, you assign it an actual height like we just did, or B, you insert another element inside of the div, or any element that you're using. In this case, I'm going to add a paragraph inside of this div with some actual words. So some content would go here. Okay, and there it is. The pink box is expanded to accommodate the other box now, because it is no longer empty. So we fixed it two ways, right? I've added content to the sidebar. I didn't give it a height, okay? And I've added height to the main content. I didn't give it actually content. So two ways to make sure that your boxes are not either empty or are not collapsed to 0. And now this pink box will accommodate both of them. Okay? So very important to understand, if you are missing an element, check to see if it's empty, because it will collapse to 0. Okay? Now, why am I showing you this? Well, I'm going to do something here. I want these two boxes to sit side by side. Okay? In order to do that, I need to float them. Okay? So let's let the video catch up here. I'm going to float this main content to the right. So let's go ahead and set that up. So float this to the right. Okay? So the 450 pixel box is going to move off to the right, and I'm going to float this sidebar to the left. Alright, so the 150 pixel red box is going to be on the left side. And what you might expect to see is those two next to each other with the pink box behind it. But when I refresh it, the pink box disappears. Why did it disappear? It didn't actually disappear, it's still there. So you see this white space here? The thing is, whenever you float an item, you pulled it out of the normal flow. In this case, we've pulled out both divs from the normal flow. So its parent box thinks that it's empty again. Okay, so the spec says when an element has any floated elements inside of it, it will collapse to 0. So this container has only floated elements inside of it, so it has now collapsed to 0. This one's floated right, this one's floated left. Container has collapsed. Okay, so how do we fix that? Well, there's a few ways to fix it. I need to get that pink to show through here. Okay. Let the video catch up here. So, two things I could do. One, I can apply a height to the outer box, to the container itself, the pink box. I can just say, hey, why don't you just stay a normal fixed height, and don't worry about whatever happens inside of you. Okay? And that's all great and good, but what happens if one of these guys happens to grow bigger? Either because I needed to tell it to give it a bigger height. In this case, I'll tell the main content div to have a bigger height. Oh, now we have a problem. It's again expanded outside the pink box. The pink box will not expand because I've given it a set height of its own, and it's still ignoring the floated elements. So you're never going to have the exact same amount of content on each page, so this is not going to work, because some pages might have longer content than others. So not a good way to fix it. So let's set this back to where it was. Okay, so still floated right, still being ignored. The other thing that might happen, as I'll show you the way it will probably happen to you guys, is if I had more content inside of this red box. I'm just going to copy and paste this a bunch of times, just for simplicity's sake here. Just to mimic some content. There you go. The content has now, again, exceeded the size of the pink box, because the pink box is ignoring that red box. It doesn't actually see it. I've given a set height to this pink box, so it's not going to expand. Okay? So, that's not going to work. So let's set this back so it's not annoying there. So how do we fix it? Well, there's actually one way to fix it that's very quick, very elegant, and I actually just learned recently. And that is to use the property of overflow, which we haven't used much, or at all in this case, and set it to auto. What overflow does is it takes whatever parent, the parent, and it overflows its height to expand to the height of its children. So in this case, even if they're floated, in this case, oh, let's get rid of height there, so it's not no longer a set height. There you go. So it's now taken into account the floats, and it's only going as high, as tall as it needs to, which is wrapped around both of these guys. So even if I were to change the height on either one, let's change the height on the purple one, it expands with it. Okay, that's what the overflow does. It takes anything inside of it, including floated items, and expands to match the height of the biggest one inside of it. Okay. Let's go back and try this with the red bar now. What happens if the red bar gets bigger? Or actually, did I do that the first time around? I think I did. Oh, it seems I did not. Let's talk about your footers. Sorry about that. I always forget what I did and didn't talk about in the first time I record this. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to add a footer. This is why I'm showing you this video, because a lot of you guys might want to add a footer after you've floated a column left and a column right. Okay? And a footer can include a number of things. It can include your copyright and your contact information. I'm going to add an unordered list here with some list items and pretend that they're links. I'm not actually going to make them links. I don't want to take time in the video to do that. And you guys already know how to do that, so I'm just going to quickly mimic some links here. And give this a second here. So this is my main reason for showing this video, because I know a lot of you guys might want to add footers, and you're going to run into some issues if you have elements above your footers being floated. Let's just see, some stuff you might have down there might be like your terms and conditions, your privacy policies, and other pages that you don't necessarily need in your nav bar, but you still want to link to. So I'll just mimic links there. So again, they're not actually links at this point, it's just a list, but I just want some content in my footer to show you. Alright, so my footer's set up, and I'll refresh, and it's up here. That's no good. Footer usually at the bottom of the page. So again, because I floated the two elements above them, above this footer, I floated them left and right, the footer is bumping up wherever it can fill its space. In this case, it's to the left, and until it meets a dead end. Okay, so it's bumped up. It's sitting up here now. Not where we want it to be. That's not where footers usually go. So let's go fix this. We need it to show up down here. Okay. So there's a property we haven't talked about yet, which is going to help us do this. Alright, so first in our CSS is we need to actually set up that footer ID. So there's my ID of footer. And just so we can see it here, actually I don't need a width because it's going to be 100%, so let's get rid of this. Just so we can see it here, I'm going to set the background color to something different than the rest so we can see where it's at. And let's go with aqua. There we go. So let's go take a look at it. And there's your box. That's as much room as it's taking up right now. And actually, that might be going all the way across the behind the purple, actually, because it's going to take up the amount of room it can, and it's ignoring those floated items. So it's actually probably going across underneath the purple at this moment. So here's your new property. It's called clear. So clear. That's all it needs. No dashes, no nothing. Just clear : and the value you're going to add to this is both. Okay, there's a few other options, but let's just clear both. So now it's magically moved down. Okay, so what clear does is it takes the element and it says if there's anything floated above you, go ahead and clear them. Don't try to bump up next to them or flow around them. Clear them. So let's see what happens if I just clear the left side. It's bumped up. Okay, so by clearing the left, it's bumped up to this red guy because it's clearing the whatever's on its left-hand side, but it's avoiding the right-hand side still. So I can flip it and say, hey, just clear whatever's on your right-hand side and avoid whatever's on your left. In this case, the right side is bigger, so it looks like it's still correct. Right? And this might still work. You could leave it like this and it'd be perfectly fine. Alright? But let's say the red side was bigger. So here's where I got confused earlier. Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this content again and make the red side bigger, leaving the footer to only clear the right-hand side. And there you go. So it's only clearing the right side float and ignoring the left side float. And by doing that, now the red side has overlapped the footer. So again, to fix that, I might want to clear left, and now it looks like it's right again. But typically, just to avoid issues in general, in case your different sides grow, you might just want to clear both and get it over with. And now it's not going to change, obviously, because the right side's bigger still, but it's clearing both left and right. Okay, so this is how you would add a footer. So in case you've added a footer to your HTML and you floated your sidebars and your columns left and right, and your footer has vanished on you, and you've gotten frustrated and thought things were broken, it's not really gone. It's still there. You just need to clear it. So hopefully that helps you guys. You can use this in a number of different ways, not just for footers. So hopefully you understand it. If you have any questions, you could always let me know. All right, on to the next video.